In this video, I'm going to be giving you the inside scoop on the 3 biggest red flags when you are looking for an attorney to represent you in a domestic violence case. My name is Veronica. I am a domestic violence defense attorney here in California, and I help people put their cases behind them so that they can enjoy their lives and their freedom. And again, in this video, we'll be talking about 3 big red flags when you're talking to attorneys or their staff and trying to figure out who you're going to have represent you in this very, very serious and very important matter. Make sure that you stay tuned for number 1, because number 1 is not only the most important and the most telling, but it's also very simple and very, very easy to spot. Okay, so let's jump right in. Number 3, make a promise or guarantee as to the outcome of the case. So in the state of California, attorneys are not ethically, per the State Bar of California, we're not allowed to make a promise or a guarantee as to the outcome of the case. We are allowed to say what we think we can do, what types of results we've gotten in similar cases, although of course every case is different, but we can never guarantee or promise that a certain outcome will happen in your case. Of course, it's a state bar violation if we do this, sure. But more importantly, it's dishonest, because how can I guarantee what another person is going to do? Even if I have a motion to suppress, to get a statement thrown out because my client was in custody, being interrogated by the cops, and had not been read his Miranda rights, or at least there was no record of it. I can file a motion, I can go in front of the judge and argue it, but can I guarantee what the judge is going to do? No, I can't. I mean, if the judge decides that he's having a bad day, he doesn't like me, he doesn't like my client, he can rule against me. At that point, my client can appeal it and keep appealing it and keep appealing it. But even when it's very clear what an outcome should be, we cannot guarantee what another person is going to do. So it is just flat out dishonest. And I know that if you are facing criminal charges, the thing that you want the most from an attorney is a guarantee, is a promise as to the outcome, is a promise that we can keep you out of jail or prison, or that we can get the case dismissed, or make sure that you have a clean record. And I have had so many people ask me to promise them this or to make them a guarantee, and I have to explain to them why I can't do that. If you are calling around to different law firms and someone makes a promise or guarantee to you, you should run. They're lying to you, and you should definitely run. The last thing you want in a criminal case is an attorney who is going to lie to you. You need the truth. Number 2, talk about how they know the judge or the prosecutor, especially if they're a former DA. There are a few problems with this. First of all, we all know the judges or the prosecutors to some extent. It doesn't mean anything necessarily. Maybe they're more like, well, I'm buddies with the judge, I'm buddies with the prosecutor. If that's true, is that really going to help you? I mean, think about it. Do you think that this is a situation where your attorney goes in there and the judge and the DA just bestow upon him all of these favors and he never does them a favor back? Of course not. If they're doing favors, it's going to be a two-way street. And on the one hand, maybe your attorney calls in a favor for you and you get a better deal, or something positive for you happens in the case. Sure. But what about if you are your attorney's favor to the DA? Another big problem is that part of our goal as criminal defense attorneys is to try to differentiate you, our client, from all the other defendants that are in the courtroom. Some of the people in the courtroom will probably go to jail or prison. Some of them are going to have criminal records, but there are going to be a few that actually get a second chance and get a break, and that is where you want to be. But if half those people in the courtroom are my clients, how am I supposed to distinguish all of them? All of my clients somehow have halos above their heads and nobody else does? That doesn't really make sense, and that's one of the problems with using the public defender. They're representing so many people in front of the same DA and the same judge. They're trying to explain, oh, my client is really special, he deserves a second chance. They're going to do that for every single one. It's going to become less convincing. And what ends up happening in that kind of situation is that whether it's just implied or whether they outright do it, clients are getting compared against one another. And again, that could work out for you, maybe. Or it can go against you, and in a really unfair way. I mean, do you deserve to be compared directly to another defendant who maybe had court there that day? Okay, number 1, emphasize prison time if this is a first-time domestic violence case and there were no severe injuries. Okay, this is actually one of the reasons why I even started a YouTube channel in the first place, because I would get calls from potential clients who are very scared, very nervous, and it's their first time domestic violence arrest, usually for a PC 273.5A, that's corporal injury to a spouse or a cohabitant, basically domestic violence where there's some sort of injury, even if it's a minor injury. And they would tell me about how they had called other attorneys, or they're looking online at these other attorneys' websites, and they think that they are going to prison. And for PC 273.5A, if it's charged as a felony, then you could do up to 4 years in prison. And they would tell me how these attorneys are emphasizing that they're going to do time in prison and they'll try to get them out of prison time. Here is the thing about that. If there are not bad injuries, and I'm talking about like a broken limb or, bruises all over your face. If there's not a bad injury like that, and it's your first time domestic violence and you have a clean record, or maybe you have like a DUI on your background, something minor like that, drinking in public, whatever, it is very, very unlikely that you will ever go to prison. In fact, most of the time, those charges can end up getting reduced, or even if you have an attorney contact the DA before court, potentially dismissed before court. So what these attorneys are trying to do, I think, is just using a scare tactic to get people who are very unlikely to ever serve prison time, let alone the max 4 years. Get them to come up with money to pay them, to sign up right away. They're just trying to scare them. But the more concerning thing about emphasizing prison time to somebody who is unlikely to ever go to prison is that you really have to wonder what that attorney's plan is for the case. I mean, my goal with these cases is to get them dismissed before court, or if they are going to get filed as a misdemeanor. If I come onto the case and it's already filed, then I'm trying to get classes in exchange for a dismissal. That is the goal, not just to keep the client out of prison. Keeping the client out of prison if it's a first-time DV case with no really terrible injuries, that's easy. The first offer from the prosecutor is probably going to be without prison. It might have some jail or something, which they know that you're going to try to negotiate away, and they probably will drop that. That's not a good result. That's not worth hiring a criminal defense attorney for. I mean, if you're going to do that and you don't care if you have a felony on your record, then you might as well just use the public defender. And I think when attorneys are saying, oh, you're facing up to 4 years in prison for this charge, you better hire somebody right away, or however they do it. That makes me think that they're not going to try that hard to keep the client's record clean, and that they're just going to say, hey, look, I got you this deal. It's a felony, it's probation. Maybe you'll have to do a little jail time, community labor, but hey, I kept you out of prison. And you don't know what else to think, especially if you're not in the system. This is your first case, right? So you may think, oh, wow, this guy's really good. He kept me out of prison. And you're really happy, but he sold you out completely. And he was always planning to. That was always his goal. I know I'll get this non-prison offer, no problem. Doesn't matter if it's a felony. Maybe I'll charge him for an expungement in a few years. For real, this is what they do. So, as long as I emphasize prison from the beginning and his expectations are really low, then he's going to be really happy for this really crappy deal. I hope you found this video helpful. If you do have a domestic violence case or another criminal case in California, feel free to give me a call. You can find my number down below. You can also find a link to book a consultation with my firm there. Oh, and if you did find this video helpful, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and ring the bell.